It's been a while since we've done some Gen 5 content, so today we're going to see how fast we can beat Pokemon Black with just a Golurk. Rules are in the description. I've said this in my Samurott video, but in case this is the first video of mine you're seeing, back when these games came out, I was in college working at a Little Caesars and doing the unwritten rule of dipping my pen in the company ink, aka dating my coworker. She bought a hardcover strategy guide of the games because she really was into the artwork that was in them, and I looked at it to map out my entire team for these games. And when I first saw Golurk, I knew I wanted to use one on my team. Just look at this thing, and its shiny isn't bad either. She later bought me a pink DS so that I could play with her and another one of our coworkers who also played. She definitely wasn't fond of only having to use Unova Pokemon, and had another friend of ours trade her some Kanto Pokemon, but I like that the game forces you to use Pokemon from its region, at least until the post-game. And my early prediction for Golurk is that the post-game is going to be absolutely brutal. As to why I think that, it comes down to the number 55, which is Golurk's base speed. Its special attack is also 55, but I'm not going to be using any special moves, despite the fact that Golurk's move pool has a lot of them, like Ice Beam, Solar Beam, Thunderbolt, Psychic, Shadow Ball. This move isn't surprising considering it is a ghost type, Charge Beam, Grass Knot, and Flash Cannon. One TM, or HM I should say in this case, that I find hilarious that it can learn is Fly, but considering this thing's arms and legs are rockets, it makes sense. One thing about Gen 5 is that the early trainers have a lot of dark and normal type Pokemon, which aren't the best matchup for ghost types, especially when some of those normal types have dark type moves, which in this case it's a good thing that Golurk starts with Mudslap to lower our opponent's accuracy. Except lowering our opponent's accuracy isn't going to matter in this run, and that's because of the ability I chose for Golurk. Normally, its abilities are Iron Fist and Klutz. Iron Fist boosts the power of punching moves, which is very useful for this thing, especially considering that by level up it learns moves like Shadow Punch, Mega Punch, Dynamic Punch, Hammer Arm, and Focus Punch. Klutz makes it so the Pokemon can't use held items, which for a solo run in Gen 5, that would be a terrible ability to have, especially for someone like me, who has grown fond of picking up the Bright Powder in these runs, which when held, it decreases your opponent's accuracy by 10%, but as I mentioned prior, accuracy won't be a thing in this run, because I went with Golurk's hidden ability, No Guard. The first thing I want to point out about No Guard is that it increases your encounter rate by 100%, which I didn't remember until editing this. I remember that Scott mentioned it in his solo Machamp video in Pokemon Platinum. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out, I recommend it. But I have 4 encounters before I face even the first mandatory trainer in this game. But the other effect of No Guard is that your attacks and your opponent's attacks won't miss. This is both a blessing and a curse, as we'll see later on in the playthrough. If I didn't have No Guard, I would have spammed Mudslap against youngster Jimmy here. His Patrat brings me down to under half HP, and I was a little worried in this battle. I battle against Lass Mally and her Purloin. This brings Golurk up to level 8 before I face Bianca. Of course, because of No Guard, I get 3 more encounters in the grass as I walk towards her battle, which for this part in the playthrough she's not relevant. I can take out her Lillipup with 2 pounds and she sends out Tepig next. I opt to go for Mudslap first, but Astonish would be doing a lot more damage, and after 2 Mudslaps I realized this and knock it out with an Astonish. Sharon at the Strident City Trainer School is next. While Snivy does have a super effective attack in Vine Whip, it's not doing very much damage, and Astonish can get the job done, even getting a flinch on it. Golurk levels up to 9 and can learn Rollout, which I delete Defense Curl for. This was really a bad play because I should have kept it. We know how Defense Curl pairs with Rollout. Rollout will also be my move of choice against Purloin, as 3 turns of it knocks it out. After defeating Sharon, I head to the Dream Yard and pick up 2 more battles that gets Golurk to level 11. I also pick up the free elemental monkey that'll be my cut user, and now I'm ready to head to the Strident City gym. And Golurk gets a rude awakening for what's to come later on in this playthrough against Waitress Tia. Remember how I mentioned how all the early Patrats have Bite? Well, hers gets a critical hit, knocking me out from half HP. And because I haven't saved yet in this playthrough, I have to take a blackout. That's a bit frustrating early on, but I do get my revenge in the second battle, easily knocking out her Pokemon with Rollout. It's time for the gym leader next, which for this playthrough it'll be Silent and his Pansage. Let's see how this one goes. Silent leads with Lillipup. While it does have Bite on its learn set, it just spams Work Up as I go for Rollout, and 3 turns of it knock it out after a potion. Pansage is next, and while it does outspeed Golurk, it just goes for Work Up, and my 4th turn of Rollout has more than enough power to one-shot it. This levels Golurk to 13 where it can learn Shadow Punch, and I'll gladly delete Astonish for it. Skipping ahead to Route 3 past the Dream Yard and Team Plasma plotline, I'm going to do a little bit of extra training here, and this is something I actually learned from Shadow Stitch Plays, who I actually played this alongside with. He does Gen 5 solo content as well, and he's a much better player than I am, so if you want to see a good player at this game, go check him out. Link in the description. After these optional battles, I'm level 14 by the time I have to face Charon. I don't heal before this battle, and Shadow Punch nearly knocks out Snivy as it heals with an Oran Berry. It then responds with Vine Whip, getting a critical hit bringing me to 14 HP. Luckily, Golurk is faster and I can knock it out on the next turn, leading into Purloin. If this thing would have rolled Vine Whip with Assist, it would have knocked me out, but thankfully it rolls Wrap, and I can take it out with 2 pounds. Alright, I need to briefly talk about the double battle against the Plasma Grunts in Wellspring Cave. Both have Pat Rats with Bite, and they're just targeting Golurk with it, bringing me to under half HP. Had either of these bites had crit, or even the next one that hits me crit, I would have probably taken another unnecessary blackout. I haven't saved since taking on Silent, but thankfully since Snivy and I can target the same Pat Rat, we take it down with ease. One small change, well really optimization I'm making in these playthroughs, is catching my HM users in the Wellspring Cave. Aside from picking up the free elemental monkey, I catch a Roggenrola which will be my strength user, and then later on a Woobat for fly. Another change I'm implementing is picking up the glitched rare candy here on Route 3. If you go back to my Samurott video, normally this is one where you surf across the lake, you go up some stairs and it's hidden in some grass, but if you pick this one up right here, it actually takes the place of that one. Once I arrive in Nakarine City, I'm going to skip going into the gym immediately and head west. I'm going to talk to the first girl you see and get the TM for Rock Smash, which I'm going to teach over Mud Slap. Next, I'm going to pick up some optional battles along with picking up some key items like this ether here. I'm going to be picking up a lot of these PP restoring items throughout the playthrough. You'll find out why later. Just south of the nurse that I battled earlier, I can head up these stairs here and there's a hidden ether on the ground. After clearing out the optional trainers, I run into a Timpole who I catch for surf purposes. And I head back to the city to face Lenora, but first I have to face N outside of the gym. His team is not a challenge, I 2-shot all of them. Lenora's gym trainers aren't a challenge at all, but the normal type specialist easily has a case to be the toughest gym leader in the Unova region. Let's see how this one goes. Her lead Herdier has Intimidate, which is going to weaken the power of Rock Smash. I also now have Iron Defense on my moveset, which I set up turn 1, and Herdier gets a critical hit with Bite, bringing me down to 28 HP. I do get a defense drop with Rock Smash, which allows me to 2-shot it, but I only have 22 HP for the Watchog. And this thing knows Crunch, which is super effective and a lot stronger than Bite. I do have a Cherry Berry equipped so I can at least wake up from the first hypnosis, but I stay asleep for the second one and Crunch is able to finish me off. After another loss, I deposit all of my HM users and take a page out of Shadow's playbook of blackout grinding against Lenora, but in this battle, Herdier just keeps going for Leer against me as I keep setting up Iron Defense. My thought process was if I can minimize damage from Watchog's Crunch and get some decent luck with waking up after a turn or two, I might win this. I make it to the Watchog with 66 HP and +5 in my defense. Unfortunately, I'm not holding a Cherry Berry in this battle because I'm fully expecting to lose. I'm only asleep for 2 turns though, and Rock Smash is doing about a third, but I only have 1 use of it left. And after that final use, Lenora uses a Super Potion and I have to resort to using Pound, which looks like it might be a 5-hit KO on this thing. Unless I get a lucky crit, this is going to be another loss, but I expect it to lose. I do get lucky waking up pretty quickly from sleep, and while this battle does come down to the wire, unfortunately due to Watchog outspeeding me and my PP negligence, I lose. I know this is possible at level 20, but on my next attempt, Herdier crits a bite, bringing me to 22 HP, which isn't enough to contend with Watchog, and I take another loss. In the next battle, I make it to Watchog with 56 HP and +5 in my defense. It goes for a turn 1 Hypnosis, but I wake up right away thanks to my Cherry Berry, and Rock Smash does a third to it. It then goes for Crunch, doing 10 HP of damage. Rock Smash brings it to under a third and gets a defense drop. It goes for another Crunch, doing another 10 HP as my next Rock Smash knocks it out. Golurk levels up to 21 and can learn Mega Punch, which I teach in the place of Rock Smash. After defeating Lenora, I have to chase Team Plasma through Pinwheel Forest, but I'm going to battle the Rangers as I come across them, because I want to stock up on Chesto Berries for later. By the way, I'm aware I made a mistake in the battle against Lenora. I said Cherry Berry instead of Chesto Berry. Shit happens. But if you want to roast me in the comments for it anyway, go ahead. They're good for the algorithm. Anyway, since nothing of relevance happens here, let's just skip ahead to the Sky Arrow Bridge and Castelia City. The first thing I do when I arrive in Castelia City is head to the Castelia building to pick up the TM for Rest. This is definitely going to come in handy later. After I chase Team Plasma out of town, I can head straight to Berg's gym. The trainers here don't give Golurk any problems, but the Venipedes are annoying with their ability Poison Point. In my Samurott run, it had a tough time with Berg due to Levani's Razor Leaf, and I had to come back at level 28. Golurk also has that weakness to grass type moves like Razor Leaf, and it's level 25. Granted, while its attack stat is better than Samurott's, its base defense stat is 5 points lower and its speed stat is 15 points lower. How will this hold up against the bug type specialist? Berg leads with Whirlipede. I've put a Pecha Berry on just for this thing in case Poison Point activates, but a combination of Shadow Punch and Pound knock it out over 2 turns. He sends out Dwebble next. Shadow Punch does well over 3/4 to it as it just goes for Sand Attack. Okay, little rock crab, waste your only turn in battle using that move. Last is Levani, and I have 3 PP of Shadow Punch left. It outspeeds as Razor Leaf brings me under half. Shadow Punch looks like it's doing under half. Its next Razor Leaf brings Golurk to 1 HP, but I get a better roll with Shadow Punch, knocking it out, earning myself the Insect Badge. As you exit town, you have a battle with Bianca, and then a battle with Charon in the desert. Bianca's easy though. I'm able to 2-shot all of her Pokemon with the exception of Pignite, and before taking on Charon, I face the 2 fishermen to the left once you first enter the desert, but the only Pokemon of his at this point that worries me is Servine, which does decent damage with Leaf Tornado. I'm able to take care of his team pretty easily. In the desert and desert resort, I'm gonna pick up a few items. The first is this ether. Remember, PP items are going to be important in this playthrough. Next, in the desert resort, I talk to this guy who gives you the soft sand, which will boost the power of Earthquake later down the line. I enter Relic Castle next, where I can drop down this quicksand and pick up this hidden ether. I pick up the hidden rare candy in this area once I exit the castle that's guarded by this trainer that paces back and forth. I battle some of the rangers for extra experience and to get Rouseberries, which could be useful later on against Cophagrigus, and I pick up the TM for Rock Tomb, which I end up not using. After taking care of Team Plasma at the entrance, I can finally enter Nimbasa City. I head straight to the Pokemon Center and purchase the TM for Return to give Golurk a moveset upgrade. I pick up the HM for Strength, head to Route 6 and pick up the rare candy there, play Dress Up with Bianca so she doesn't stop me on my way outside of town. I actually never knew you could do this, probably because I always just bum rush the gym. Another thing that I learned from Shadow Stitch. And I ride the Ferris wheel with N as we gaze into the night sky and stars, and he tells me he's the king of Team Plasma. Of course, I have a battle with him after the Ferris wheel ride. He's not a challenge, I crush his team, but I now have Dynamic Punch, the move I I was looking forward to using in this playthrough with the ability No Guard. I can make my way through Elisa's gym, and considering I'm part ground type, Golurk doesn't struggle here. No intro for Elisa this week. I'm able to crush her team with relative ease. But you know who does provide a challenge? Charon as I leave town. I also forgot to heal before this rival battle, and I'm going to be playing out the rest of it with under half HP after the Lipard. The Pampor that follows goes down to a Shadow Punch, but now comes Servine. I opt for Dynamic Punch just to get confusion on it, which fails to knock it out, and it heals up with its Citrus Berry. It gets through the confusion and hits me with Leaf Tornado, knocking me out. I contemplated taking the Blackout, but I last saved before Elisa, so I rebattle her, save before the rematch with Charon, and re-enter the battle. The first two Pokemon go down in the same way as the first battle, as I make it back to the Servine. I go for Dynamic Punch and it heals up with its Citrus Berry, but this time it hits itself in confusion, allowing me to knock it out the next turn with Shadow Punch. Last is Tranquil. Dynamic Punch deals neutral damage, and it's more than enough to one-shot it. Once I arrive in Driftville City, I head straight to the market, and I'm going to talk to this guy who gives you the Expert Belt, a held item that will boost the power of super effective attacks. This is definitely going to come in handy. I make my way to the cold storage and pick up the hidden PP up in this garbage can. This is going to go on Dynamic Punch right away. There's also an Ether in the grass here, along with a Protein. We help Clay and his boys take out the trash that is Team Plasma, and then we can head to his gym. The trainers in his gym provide no challenge to Golurk. Return is able to one-shot all of their Pokemon, and Clay is not a challenge either, so no intro for him this week. 2 of his 3 Pokemon take super effective damage from Dynamic Punch, and we have the Expert Belt equipped now. It's 3 Dynamic Punches and 3 one-shots against the Ground-type Specialist. I have a battle against Bianca as I exit town. She's a sweep. Once I make it to Chargestone Cave, in the first area here, I can pick up this hidden elixir. It disappoints me a little bit that I'm going to be skipping the Bright Powder in this playthrough. An item that I feel like has been pretty clutch in previous playthroughs is now going to get no use. We will be coming back to Chargestone Cave though for the rare candy and another item that'll come in use later on. Anyway, just before exiting the cave to Mistralton City, you do have a battle against N. He's not a challenge though. The only damage I take in this battle is from Ferroseed's Iron Barbs. Once I arrive in Mistralton City, I immediately have to head towards Route 7 and the Celestial Tower. Of course, I can pick up a Max Ether along the way, along with a PP up, which is immediately going to go into Dynamic Punch. On the second floor of the Celestial Tower, I learned another trick from one of Shadow Stitch's videos. You can press B to change the position of the trainers. This makes it easy to access the spell tag. This boosts the power of ghost moves by 20%. Or Shadow Punch in our case. We meet Skyla at the top of the tower and send her back to the gym after ringing the bell in Quailag's domain. Now we just need to head to the Undead Parish and ring the bell there. Before heading into Skyla's gym though, I'm gonna head to the runway and go all the way down and pick up this hidden Max Ether. I did say we would be picking up a lot of PP restoring items, and I wasn't kidding. The trainers in Skyla's gym are not a problem, and I don't expect Skyla to be either. While Swoobat and Swanna have moves that can deal super effective damage in Assurance and Bubble Beam, I just think Golurk will overwhelm her with its massive 146 attack stat. And my prediction ended up being right about Skyla. I take out the Swoobat with 1 Shadow Punch and out comes the Swanna. While Bubble Beam does about 1/4 to me, I get some lucky confusion luck as it hits itself and Shadow Punch knocks it out. Last is Unpheasant. While this thing deals a tiny bit of damage with Air Slash, Skyla's just caught in a healing loop with it, and once she runs out of Hyper Potions, it's over. But once again, you know who's tougher than the actual gym leader? Charon. For the few runs I've done, I think this is the most screen time he's gotten so far. The Unpheasant is able to get through confusion and deal 1/4 of my HP with Air Slash before it goes down, and next is Servine. Golurk thankfully still outspeeds this thing and Shadow Punch gets the 1 hit, but now we have Simipour, who's faster, and Scald deals massive damage to Golurk. While Dynamic Punch one-shots it, his last Pokemon Lipard is faster, and Assurance knocks out Golurk. I last saved in front of Skyla, so I have to defeat her again before taking on Charon. It's a repeat of Nimbasa City all all over again. In the next battle, I don't even make it to the Liepard. The Simipour takes me out when Return fails to get the one-shot, and after that, Shadow Punch fails to one-shot Servine with the spell tag equipped. It deals massive damage with Leaf Blade, and Simipour takes me out once again. If Charon is giving me this much trouble outside of Twist Mountain, how is he going to be when I have to face him before Victory Road? It's too early to pop rare candies. I want to save those for before N gets this. I'll just have to luck through this one. In the very next battle, luck was on my side. Dynamic Punch one-shots the Servine. I went for this move hoping for good confusion luck, and the following Simipour goes for Leer instead of Scald, and Shadow Punch one-shots it. And while Liepard's Assurance does 1/3 of my HP, it can't take the power of a Dynamic Punch. In Twist Mountain, I'm gonna pick up a few PP restoring items along with a PP up. I will be coming back here once I change the clock to winter to get the TM for Substitute, an extra rare candy, along with an extra rare candy in Iciris City. I won't be showing that though because when I did it for the Superior run, it screwed up a lot of stuff with Pokelink and OBS, so it was all done off recording. Shadow Stitch did tell me about a program called Run As Date, but it would act funky with the emulator. When I set the speed in Desmume, I have to toggle it to 4x speed since there isn't a setting to just have it run at 4x speed constantly. And the toggle text wouldn't disappear from the screen, so imagine something that would look like this for the entire run. It's also the only emulator right now that works with Pokelink, until it becomes compatible with BizHawk. Hey Scott, if you're watching this, if you need someone to test your Gen 5 overlay when it's ready, hit me up. I'll gladly be a test dummy for ya. Or if you're someone who knows how to write a Lewis script where it's always wintertime, hit me up in the comments. Anyway, upon exiting, we can head straight for the Iciris City gym. While Bryson and his trainers are normally a joke, they do hold a type advantage against Golurk. Although the only Pokemon that can outspeed Golurk on the trainers' teams and Bryson's is Cryogonal. Still, it has paper-thin defenses, and as long as we can tank one attack from it, it's going to fall to a Dynamic Punch. Will Bryson keep his reputation as being the biggest joke of the gym leaders in the Unova region, or will he finally get his first win? Bryson really didn't deserve an intro. The only Pokemon of his I was worried about was Cryogonal, but it chooses its weaker of its 2 Ice-type moves in Aurora Beam instead of Frost Breath, which will always critical hit. And it does pathetic damage to Golurk, and it's just 3 uses of Falcon Punch to wrap this one up. Before heading to Dragon Spiral Tower, I did set the season to winter so I could grab the Substitute TM, Twist Mountain Rare Candy, and Iciris City Rare Candy. Here's a screenshot of where the candy is in Twist Mountain. Credit to Axu Kairisora for this. If you're wondering where the Substitute TM is, check out my Superior video. And as far as the candy in Iciris City, south of the Pokemon Center, to the left of the dancing crowd. I can pick up this max elixir before the back-to-back-to-back plasma battles, and even make use of some of the PP restoring items I've picked up throughout the playthrough to restore Dynamic Punch PP. Golurk doesn't struggle with the 4 back-to-back battles, and as we get to the top of the tower, we have a cutscene with Joey Wheeler and his Red Eyes Black Dragon. Of course, we have to head to Relic Castle after this, and there's really only one thing to note. As Golurk battles its way through the Plasma Grunts, it levels up to 50 and can learn Earthquake, which will replace Magnitude, and now we have 2, possibly 3 moves of its final moveset in Dynamic Punch, Earthquake, and Shadow Punch. At the bottom of the castle, we run into Getsus. He mentions something about resurrecting Reshiram. I get the Lightstone from Lenora, and before heading to Opalucid City, I'm going to do 2 quick errands. The first is grabbing the rare candy in Pinwheel Forest, and the second, I'm going to head back to Driftville City and talk to this old man who gives you the Shell Bell once you've seen 50 or more Pokemon. I have a feeling this item's gonna come in handy for the League. Before I can enter Opalucid City though, I get stopped by Bianca who challenges me to a battle. Only thing to note is that Simisage hits me with a Leer, and Shadow Punch fails to one-shot it 3 times total, probably thanks to her lead Stoutland's Intimidate. It hits me with a Seed Bomb doing massive damage, but thankfully the Emboar and Masharna that follow it are both one-shots. And that's all the screen time Bianca gets for this video. Opalucid City Gym. The trainers here take neutral damage from Dynamic Punch and Earthquake. Golurk makes quick work of them. Drayden. Earthquake one-shots his entire team. No intro for for him. But for the third time in this video, Cheren is tougher than the prior gym leader. The Unpheasant deals a quarter of my HP to me with Air Slash as I take it out over 2 turns. And up next is his now fully evolved Superior. It sets up with a coil turn 1 as I go for Dynamic Punch to confuse it. It gets through the confusion, hits a Leaf Blade, knocking out Golurk. I put the Shell Bell on before the next battle. Once again, it sets up coil turn 1 as I confuse it with Dynamic Punch. This time, Golurk hangs on from a Leaf Blade, but Return can't finish it. Thankfully, it hits itself in confusion on the next turn and I can take it out, but Simipour is next, it's faster, and Scald takes out Golurk. In the next battle, thanks to some great confusion luck on the Unpheasant and Superior, I make it to Simipour with full HP, and like in the battle outside of Twist Mountain, it goes for Leer, and Dynamic Punch gets the one-shot. Last is Liepard. While it's faster and Night Slash does well over half my HP, it can't withstand a Dynamic Punch to the face. If Cheren has been this tough in the playthrough, how is the League going to be? How will N and Getsus and even a post-game trainer like Cynthia going to go for Golurk? When I sat down to do this playthrough, I thought it would have a playthrough similar to Embor's, which was pretty dominant against the gym leaders, some hiccups in the League and against N and Getsus, but Embor's post-game was absolutely brutal. In the limited runs I've done of Gen 5, Embor currently ranks at the bottom with a real time of 1 hour, 51 minutes, and 57 seconds, finishing the postgame at level 90 with a cumulative game time of 9 hours and 51 minutes. I should also note that when it finished the main game, its in-game time was 7 hours and 2 minutes, so nearly 3 hours added on to that just to complete the postgame. Golurk is currently more than an hour behind of Embor's in-game time to this point, but how will its performance against the League stack up against the Fighting Pigs? Up first is the Psychic Specialist Caitlyn. Her Sigilif is the only Pokemon faster than Golurk and it deals massive damage with Ice Beam, but it, along with the rest of her team, is one-shot by Shadow Punch. When I leveled up in this battle, I briefly debated about learning Hammer Arm, but I don't need it. I have Dynamic Punch, which is much better. Up next is Ghost Trainer Chantal, who's usually the toughest of the 4 elite members in my opinion, but in this playthrough, she's pretty easy. I one-shot her entire team with Earthquake or Shadow Punch. Fighting Trainer Marshall is next. If it weren't for Sawk's sturdy ability, this would have been another one-shot sweep. Golurk is 3 for 3 against the League now, but surely Grimsley, who on paper is probably our toughest matchup, is going to change that, right? Well, not with his first Pokemon, Scrafty. It goes down to 1 Dynamic Punch. But what about Crocodile? It outspeeds Golurk and deals massive damage with Foul Play, but even with Intimidate, Dynamic Punch still gets the one-shot. But Grimsley's next Pokemon is Liepard. It's faster, crits with Night Slash, and Golurk faints. I wondered if Golurk could tank a Night Slash if it didn't crit and if I had the Shell Bell equipped to recover just enough HP. I don't find out in the next battle, cause it crits again and Golurk faints. However, in the next battle after Shell Bell recovery, I have 75 HP after knocking out Crocodile. Liepard's Night Slash, without a crit, leaves Golurk on 13 HP, and after knocking it out, I have 29 HP for Bisharp, but Golurk's faster, and it's 4 times weak to Dynamic Punch. Speed problems came into play against Grimsley, and in round 2 when he has a Sharpedo and Drapion added to his team to go with his Crocodile and Liepard, it's not going to be a fun time. Embor beat the postgame at level 90, and considering Samurott was level 88 and Superior 89, Golurk might have to be an even higher level. Hopefully not though, and my slow improvements as a player at these games can be enough. In N's Castle, we can get one last rare candy, catch our own legendary dragon, and now it's time for the final 2 battles of the main game. I make a boneheaded mistake in this battle. I've used my rare candies to bring myself to level 69, nice, and also taught the move Substitute prior for the Getsus battle. I one-shot the first 2 Pokemon with Earthquake and Dynamic Punch, but I'm still used to seeing Return in the slot that Substitute is in, since I had it on my moveset throughout the league, and thinking Return is there against Caracosta once N has already used his full restore. Instead, I take a quarter of my own HP. Whoops. This puts me at a disadvantage for the rest of the battle. The following Archeops brings Golurk to 1 HP with Acrobatics. Thankfully it knocks itself out with Confusion on the next turn. But next is Zoroark disguised as Klinklang. It's faster than Golurk and finishes it. In the next battle, when I don't make stupid mistakes and get some luck, things go much better. The Caracosta hits itself, so I have full HP going into the Archeops. It deals about a third of Golurk's HP with Acrobatics as Dynamic Punch gets a better roll, one-shotting it. Night Slash from the following Zoroark brings Golurk under half, but Dynamic Punch one-shots it. Last is Klinklang, and it can't withstand the power of a Dynamic Punch. We're going to jump straight into the battle against Ghetsis. I set up a substitute on Cofagrigus to block its Toxic, as Earthquake one-shots it on the following turn. Against Seismitoad, I get some great luck, as it hits itself in Confusion from Dynamic Punch. Ghetsis heals it with a full restore, and Earthquake one-shots it. I have my substitute in place for Hydreigon, probably his most dangerous Pokemon, who breaks it with Surf, but Dynamic Punch one-shots it. I get more Confusion luck against Electros, as it hits itself after Dynamic Punch. If you're wondering why I'm not using Earthquake against it, it has the Levitate ability, so it's never going to take super effective damage from anything. The remaining two Pokemon are Bisharp and Bouffalant, who both go down to Dynamic Punch. Golurk completes the main game at level 69, nice, with a real time of 3 hours, 9 minutes, and 26 seconds, with an in-game time of 6 hours and 5 minutes. My second fastest playthrough to date for both metrics. With how Golurk performed, and with how well I did with Haxorus, which by the way I live streamed that playthrough and will be mentioning it at the end of this video, so if you want to avoid spoilers, here's your first warning that they'll be coming. I'll mention it again when I actually bring them up and put a timestamp on screen for what you can fast forward to. But anyway, with how those two performed, I feel like I really need to revisit the starters at the end of the year. So, with the post-game beginning, let's cover some quick errands. The first thing I'm going to do is pick up some rare candies I previously skipped. The first being on Route 2 after you move this boulder. I catch a Basculin because it's able to learn Waterfall, which will give me access to additional rare candies. I then pick up the HM for Waterfall and head to Nimbasa City. I plan on getting the rare candy in Lostlorn Forest that you can only access with Waterfall, but first I'm going to make a pit stop in Anvil Town, where I can pick up another rare candy previously skipped. Lostlorn candy acquired, and now I'm going to head to Chargestone Cave. I skipped the candy here earlier, but with Ghetsis defeated, I can find one of the 7 stages, Bronus, I think that's how his name is pronounced here. After I defeat the 2 grunts that come to his rescue, he gives me the TM for Rock Polish. Normally when I do the post game, I like to go east of Nimbasa to the Marvelous Bridge, to Black City or White Forest, to Route 14 in the Abundant Shrine, to Undella Town and Route 13, to Lacunosa Town, Route 12, Village Bridge, and Route 11 back to Opalucid. But today I'm going to be doing it in the reverse order. At the Village Bridge, I can pick up the leftovers in this trash can. As I travel on Route 13 towards Undella Town, I'm going to make a pit stop at the Giant Chasm. This is home to the legendary dragon Kyurem, and it provides a decent amount of experience when you need to level up more in the post game. 4,671 experience points to be exact, which does get Golurk up to level 73. After defeating the dragon and arriving in Undella Town, I decide to test my luck with the Sinnoh champion Cynthia. And it goes terribly. I don't even make it past her first Pokemon Spiritomb. Normally this thing likes to set up double team, but maybe it knows I have no guard because it just goes for Shadow Ball, knocking me out in 2 turns. I definitely need to train more. I start by heading to Route 14 and defeating trainers there, making my way towards the Abundant Shrine, where I can pick up an additional rare candy and battle additional trainers. I really wish Landorus appeared here if you didn't have both Tornadus and Thundurus in your party. A level 70 legendary, especially in these games, would be such a good experience yield. Remember Ace Trainer Kip, the guy with the Absol that used Perish Song on my superior? He makes another appearance in this video. The Absol doesn't have a chance to use Perish Song, or any move for that matter, because Dynamic Punch deletes it, but now I have 0 PP left of the move and a Walrein to deal with. Earthquake fails to one-shot the Walrus, and it uses Blizzard, taking Golurk from 172 HP to 0. I last saved before attempting Cynthia, and I didn't want to replay a bunch of progress, so I'm going to have to take the Blackout. but after defeating all other trainers on this route, I come back to get vengeance. And just like in Superior's video, Dodrio knocks itself out from confusion. Black City, I just really wanted to show off this place because the buildings are bigger than what they were in Superior's video. I just thought that was kinda neat. Alright, errand's almost complete. I head to Mistralton Cave to pick up the TM for Rock Slide and the rare candy in Cabalion's chamber. I won't be battling the legendary beast today. Instead, I'm going to escape rope out and fly back to Undella Town and take another crack at Cynthia. I've taught Rock Polish for this battle. I need at least one turn of setup in order to outspeed the rest of her Pokemon, but the Spiritomb is quite the troll. It has Double Team, Shadow Ball, Sucker Punch, and Will-O-Wisp on its moveset. Will-O-Wisp is an automatic reset since it will deal chip damage and half my attack stat. Double Team is essentially a free turn thanks to no guard. However, Sucker Punch can deal massive damage, which it does to Golurk in this first battle. Milotic is no pushover either and requires good confusion luck. I need it to hit itself or miss Hydro Pump or Blizzard since it has both. In this battle though, it gets through confusion, hits Hydro Pump, and knocks out Golurk. I've picked up 7 rare candies and I'm going to use all of them, taking Golurk from level 76 to 83. Maybe going above 3 damage rounding thresholds will help out. And the short answer is no, not really. While I am able to tank Spiritomb's attacks a bit better, Earthquake still isn't one-shotting it, but perhaps with the Soft Sand it can. I end up not making it past her first Pokemon because it hits me with Will-O-Wisp and I just take the reset. This next battle was my best attempt at Cynthia. I set up Rock Polish as it wastes its turn with Double Team. It then goes for Sucker Punch, dealing half my health, but I'm able to one-shot it with Earthquake while holding the Soft Sand. Milotic is next and I get good luck against it, as it hits itself in confusion, allowing Earthquake to knock it out on the next turn. Electros comes out third, and once again I get great confusion luck, as it hits itself in confusion, which forces Cynthia to burn one of her full restores. I of course reconfuse it with Dynamic Punch and take it out the next turn with Shadow Punch. Garchomp is fourth and the confusion luck runs out here. It's able to get through and hits a massive crunch, bringing me down to 21 HP, and had I not set up a Rock Polish on Spiritomb, it would be moving first and this battle would be over. She sends out Braviary 5th and I need some good luck here. I need it to hit itself in confusion and I can knock it out the next turn and hopefully outspeed Lucario and take it out with Dynamic Punch. Unfortunately, like with Garchomp, it gets through the confusion and Brave Bird takes me out. While doing this voiceover and editing in post, I found something interesting. You can go to Castelia City and battle Morimoto. Perhaps in future runs, if I can't defeat Cynthia, I should try my luck with him. Or I should just battle him anyway because he probably gives decent experience considering all of his Pokemon are in the 70s. Anyway, I tried battling Cynthia one more time, it went terribly, and that's all the attempts I'm going to give it. I feel like you know a postgame is going rough when you have to enter Challenger's Cave. There are extra trainers here along with a few items I can pick up, and a trainer I have yet to defeat, Veteran Sean, who has a full party of 6 and a decently balanced team with Gyarados, Excadrill, Crobat, Druddigon, Gigalith, can't wait to solo run that Mon, and Snorlax. Anyway, he's a spinner and catches me the first time, and then defeats me, but I make it by him the second time. While I'm here, I pick up a hidden rare candy, the TM for Stone Edge, and the Black Belt item. Golurk is level 83, and while I like to use Cynthia as a test before the league, it's a lot better to prepare against trainers who use one specific type. So let's take on round 2, which starts in the worst possible way. I take L's from each league member back to back to back to back. We're going to stick with Grimsley though. I see a pretty quick path to victory. I need to set up at least one Rock Polish in order to outspeed the rest of his team. Sharpedo's Waterfall is going to do big damage no matter what, but as long as it doesn't crit, we're fine. Dynamic Punch can one-shot it along with Grimsley's Crocodile even after Intimidate. But against Liepard, I need it to not go for Sucker Punch. It doesn't here. I knock it out and I have green health for the 3 Pokemon remaining. Dynamic Punch can't knock out the following Scrafty, but I get some good luck as it hits itself in confusion. Grimsley then burns through his full restore as I reconfuse it with Dynamic Punch and I can knock it out the next turn with Earthquake. I stick with Earthquake on Drapion since it's super effective and gets stabbed from Golurk's ground typing, and it thankfully one-shots it. Bisharp is last, it's 4 times weak to Dynamic Punch, and falls. Up next is Caitlyn. I've deleted Rock Polish for Substitute. I needed to block Musharna's Hypnosis. Thanks to leveling up against Grimsley, Shadow Punch now one-shots it. Sigilif is next and it has Ice Beam, which breaks my sub, but Shadow Punch is able to one-shot it and the Reuniqueless that follows. Bronzong follows, and I'm starting to understand why Scott hates this line in Gen 4. Shadow Punch gets a critical hit nearly one-shotting it, but it has Payback, which doubles in power since it's moving second. She heals it up with a full restore as Shadow Punch looks like it's doing less than half, and it ends up being a 3-shot on Bronzong, who gets in another Payback, and if I didn't have the Shell Bell equipped, I probably would have lost. Her last two Pokemon are Gothitelle and Metagross, which each go down to 1 Shadow Punch and Earthquake. Alright, Fighting Trainer Marshall next. I've added Rock Polish back to my moveset. Dynamic Punch does about 3/4 to Breloom, who gets through the confusion and hits a Spore. The first 2 turns that I'm asleep though, it hits itself in confusion, which then triggers Marshall to use a full restore on it. I wake up after only 2 turns and get off a Rock Polish as it hits me with Grass Knot, doing exactly half of my HP. However, on my next turn, Dynamic Punch gets a critical hit, one-shotting it. He sends out Throw next, and I had set up Rock Polish assuming this thing would use Bulldoze every turn, but it actually no longer has the move and instead has Earthquake, which brings Golurk under half after Shell Bell recovery. I'm able to knock it out over 2 turns, which he sends out Toxicroak next, which falls to 1 Earthquake, and next is his ace Conkeldurr. Dynamic Punch deals more than 1/3 to it, and I get lucky as it hits itself in confusion, because this thing knows Payback, and it probably would have knocked me out from my current HP. I finish it with an Earthquake, and knock out the following Mienshao in 1 hit with Earthquake, and last is Sawk. Marshall's out of full restores, and the only attacks Sawk has that can hit me are Stone Edge and Poison Jab. Both are not very effective, and I can take it out over 2 turns with Earthquake. The final member is Ghost Trainer Chantel. I leveled up after the Marshall battle and popped the rare candy I found in Challenger's Cave before this battle, so if you're wondering how I went from level 85 to 87, that's why. I'm holding a Chesto Berry for this battle and have taught Rest, and I'm going to make contact with Coffagrigus to make sure that no guard is no more, and that's because after I knock out the Coffin and the following Jellicent, she sends out Frostlast, and I didn't want this thing hitting Blizzard over and over with no contest. It outspeeds and hits the 70% accurate move, doing over half, but Shadow Punch one-shots it. I one-shot the following Drifblim as well, but its Aftermath ability brings me to 63 HP. Her Ace Chandelure comes out next, which Earthquake one-shots it, and her final Pokemon is her own Golurk. I use Rest to heal up because I wasn't sure what it was going to go for, and it chooses Earthquake, doing about 1/3. I retaliate with Shadow Punch, knocking out her inferior Golurk in 1 hit. At long last, Golurk is moving on to the champion. Earlier in this run when I picked up Rock Slide and then Stone Edge, I mainly went into Challenger's Cave for some extra experience in that rare candy. It's because I was thinking about Alder's Excelgor and Volcarona, and here I am at the end of the game with both in my inventory, and I'm not going to teach either. If you want to know how annoying Excelgor can be, go check out my Haxorus stream. But to talk about it a little more before the battle, it knows Energy Ball, utilizing its higher special attack stat, and it has 145 base speed, so it's going to outspeed a lot of Pokemon that challenge Alder. And his ace Volcarona, you already know how dangerous this thing can be. I'm not worried about the rest of his team though. Dynamic Punch will give me super effective damage against Vanillix and Bouffalant, and neutral damage against Druddigon and Escavalier. I'm gonna put on another Chesto Berry and roll with my current moveset. It's time to face the champion. Excelgor's the lead. It opens with Energy Ball and does about 1/3, honestly a lot less than I expected. I retaliate with Dynamic Punch to confuse it, but unfortunately it's able to get through the confusion and hit another Energy Ball, bringing me to 1/3 as Earthquake knocks it out. Vanillix follows, it says goodbye from Falcon Punch, Druddigon comes out after that, Earthquake one-shots it and doesn't make contact so I can avoid its Rough Skin ability, and his ace Volcarona comes out next. Honestly, I should have used Rest on Druddigon to have near full HP for this thing. It outspeeds me and Overheat crits, knocking me out. Although without a crit, I don't think I would have withstood it. In the next battle, things play out the same, except Excelgor hits itself in confusion. I still have one-shots on the next 2 Pokemon, and now I have green health for Volcarona. This time it sets up Quiver Dance, and Earthquake gets the one-shot. That was a little surprising. Buffalant is next, and it's one
Falcon Punch
to take it out, and last is Escavalier. Dynamic Punch of course confuses it and deals neutral damage. It gets through the confusion and hits me with Iron Head, doing pretty good damage, but Golurk is faster, and it's one last
Falcon Punch
to win us the battle. Golurk wraps up the postgame with a real time of 1 hour, 27 minutes, and 11 seconds, finishing the game at level 88 with a cumulative game time of 7 hours and 47 minutes. Okay, earlier I said I was gonna talk about Haxorus's results from my stream. You have been warned. If you're not looking at the screen, look now. I'm gonna have a timestamp on screen of what to fast forward to. And I'll do you a little extra favor. I'll put a timestamp in the pinned comment, but you've been warned. Now I'm going to talk about the runs. I can tell I'm slowly improving as a player in these games. Haxorus was dominant, and it's my only playthrough to date where I've gotten a time under 2 hours and 30 minutes in the main game, and Golurk as of right now has the second fastest time in terms of real time and in-game time. The starters are kind of grouped together, but Superior to me was definitely the best among the 3. I'm going to have to come back at the end of the year and replay all of them just to see how much I've improved. When it comes to the postgame though, what I've noticed is speed is king, and 2 slow Pokemon like Emboar and Golurk really struggled in the postgame. Samurott is not that much faster than the other 2, and while it didn't struggle per se, it didn't dominate either, not like Superior did. But there's a column I recently added to this postgame tier list that's still under construction, so ignore the rankings, called Additional Game Time. And surprisingly, the difference between Golurk's in-game time completion from the main game completion in-game time is 1 hour and 42 minutes, the same as Superior. However, Emboar's is nearly at 3 hours, where Samurott is over 2. And of course, Haxorus is just over an hour. That thing is really good. As I get more runs under my belt, the tier list will get a bit nicer and more organized, but for our next Unova run, we're going to be doing another slow Pokemon. Continuing using Pokemon that I used in my first playthrough, we'll be doing Pokemon Black with only Escavalier. Twin Needle Gang rejoice, but I think it might set the standard for worst performance in these games so far. I hope you liked this video. I'll see you in 2 weeks when I release the next one. Take care everybody, and I'll see you then.